Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone welcome. Surah Rad, chapter 13, verses 25 to 29. And these are the references, and this is our contact number. Recap so far. The state of a people, society, nation does not change until they change what is within their consciousness, that is human psyche. This means that if, as individuals, we observe the collective state of a nation based on man-made laws, then we can figure out the scaling of every aspect of their individual and collective psyche. And from this, we can also figure out in which direction this nation is heading, i.e. the application of the law of requital. Next one is the world around us is the sum total of all nations on the planet, their collective psyche, and the nature and form of this psyche. Those who are most powerful directly and indirectly influence the psyche of the majority of people in the world, and the Quran has provided all micro and macro details of this by stating what is good for mankind remains on earth. If you remember, Quran has said that what is good for mankind, that remains on earth, and then gave two similes. One was of the flooded water, which leaves all debris behind, and also second was of melting ores. Their scum comes to the top and pure metal remains underneath. So if human beings make an effort, then we can bring change in the world, i.e. evaluate our world and see how much good there is for the whole of mankind as one unit. So it is our duty to figure out that at this point in time, how much good is there, how much bad is there, and then make an effort to change it. Since the universe is created as Haqq, we need to evaluate world events as being a tussle between Haqq and Batil. So from the Quranic point of perspective, Quran always says that look at Haqq and look at Batil. And even if Batil is too much, don't be afraid of it. Stand up for Haqq and the change will start appearing. Batil is that which produces destructive effects in the long run, and this is to be evaluated keeping in mind the whole of mankind. So this is important that isolated events should not be taken as Haqq and Batil. It should be a holistic view across the world. The scaling used must be universal based on what is good for mankind remaining on earth. Next is when we willingly accept Iman, then we deliberately enter into an agreement with Allah with terms and conditions as laid down in the Quran. This point we discussed or we mentioned in our last presentation, that when we come to the Quran, essentially we enter into an agreement with Allah, even if it is unwritten. Written can only be produced if we have a system of deen, or there's an authority, there is an authority which is working on behalf of Allah. This covenant which we enter into includes educating, training, and developing ourselves with a view to carry out all those responsibilities which Allah has taken on Himself. For carrying out these responsibilities, we have to train ourselves through the medium of doing solid deeds. So once we have Iman, we should go into a very high drive, very high level of thinking and start analyzing everything which is going around in the world around us. Whatever we are doing, doesn't matter whether we are digging a road or we got a very high flying job or a very high paying business or wherever we are, we should keep thinking that how the world can change in the light of the Quran. As part of this covenant, we have to come together as Momineen and Muttaqeen to form a Jamaat so that our hearts become united and our differences disappear. An important prerequisite to progress towards the system of deen. Because individuals are important, but individuals have to come together. And that is where the Quran puts an emphasis, that once you come together, then you will see that the things will start shaping up. The first verse for today's presentation is 13:25, not honoring our covenant with Allah with our deeds. وَالَّذِينَ يَنْقُضُونَ عَهْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مِيثَاقِهِ وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَنْ يُوصَلَ وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ اللَّعْنَةُ وَلَهُمْ سُوءُ الدَّارِ. Contrary to this, there are those people who break this covenant which they had firmly made with Allah and break into pieces those relationships of humanity which they were instructed to join. And in this way, keep creating imbalances and chaos in the world. So if somebody is creating imbalances and chaos in the world, then essentially we can say that he if he's, for example, a Muslim, then he is not into that covenant and agreement with Allah. He has broken that. He has moved away from that. These people become deprived of the bounties of life, and their end is perdition. And this is very obvious. We'll go through some of these details in following slides. Now we will look at meanings of ahad and mithaqihi. Root of ahad is this one: continuous protection and taking care of something, to take care of a firm commitment. Can also mean giving command, taking commitment and promise, and instructing to live up to it. So this includes that once we make a commitment with Allah, then we have to live up to it. We have to be very conscious of it. Responsibility and trust also form part of it. It can also mean to know someone or to meet someone. In relation to Allah, it means to fulfill our commitments made towards Him, and He will in turn fulfill His commitments as outlined in the Quran. For example, just look at the verse 241. It is in relation to Bani Israel. It also means loyalty. Of course, when we make an agreement, then we have to have some kind of a loyalty towards the system of deen, towards Allah. Root of mithaq is that rope, chain, or tie with which something is tied. See, there is a more concreteness over here. Previously, it was a commitment, it was an agreement, and now that has become stronger. Something which has become established and strong, that commitment which cannot break down. The Quran has stated, that whoever held on to this commitment, this covenant, this is one which is not going to break up. Firm commitment, solid promise, have trust in someone, consider someone trustworthy, and its derivatives are getting a trustworthy commitment, so much fodder, trusting it to last a whole year. So there is an element of rububiyyat here. It could be a commitment and promise which is based on a formal, solemn oath. Significance of living up to our covenant with Allah. Now, I've jotted down some points which I thought are relevant. After inviting our attention to the covenant which we make with Allah voluntarily, here the Quran has reminded us that this agreement which we make should never be broken. Because this is the agreement with the Creator of the heavens and of human beings. And all those promises which Allah has made towards Momineen. So we should look forward to doing those responsibilities so that those promises are fulfilled from the side of Allah. Rather, it should be strengthened by rational thinking through it. And we need a lot of rational thinking, a lot of reasoning, and a lot of patience, a lot of resoluteness and steadfastness. It should become strengthened by taking it from Allazina yufuna bi ahdillahi wala yanquzuna al-mithaq. So from ahad to mithaq, making it very firm. Once we are on this straight path, then we make it firm and formal by agreeing to its finest details, i.e. accepting the whole of the Quran as one complete constitution of deen. So this is something which we should keep it in mind, that part of this commitment is based on what is given in the Quran. Understanding the finer aspects of our commitment with Allah is part of agreeing to have Eimaan, otherwise the Quran becomes meaningless. If this point is not picked up, then we merely recite it and ourselves does not benefit from its core guidance. Next is the Quran has drawn our attention to the seriousness of its guidance and to not take its values lightly. And that is why Quran says, وَيَقْتَعُونَ مَا أَمْرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ, that we cannot go against it, we cannot move away, we cannot transgress, because it has serious consequences for us and the world. And because if we are contributing and making an effort to do good in the world, then if we move away from that, that means that good will not happen, that will not occur, and as a result, the imbalances will increase. Here, attention has been drawn to the evidence-based fact that if we let things take a wrong turn, then this will lead to yufsiduna fil ard. If this happens, then lohumul lanato, then of course we cannot benefit from the prosperities and successes which are included, which are implicit in following the Quran. We will turn our life into a living hell, and we can see that hell around us. There are plenty of glimpses in every part of the world. We will not benefit from our efforts optimally in this life, and our life will not develop on correct line. The cognitive side of this covenant will be the hallmark of the system of deen, and proper education, training, and self-development will take place at all levels of the society involved in the deen. Of course, all systems, as we have discussed before, they start somewhere. Some individuals have to take a lead. Those individuals, as long as they keep making an effort, others will join in, and as a result, gradually the Jamaat forms, and then things will take some kind of a positive direction. 1326, Law of Mashiyyat for Rizq noted. Allah yabsutu rizqa liman yasha'u wa yaqdiru wa farihu bil hayati dunya wa mal hayati dunya fil akhirati illa mata'un. Over here, the word la man yasha is something which we should keep it in mind, because this refers to the law of Mashiyyat of Allah, that everything in human world, there is a law working behind it. When we go against Allah's laws, even then the consequences are because of the law when we go against it. That is, it is part of law of requital. Remember, the means of sustenance in the world is obtained according to the law of Mashiyyat of Allah. Whoever wishes to have plenty and makes an effort for it, he will get plenty. Whoever wishes just enough will get enough. This is all according to the physical law of Allah. The one who puts a greater effort into his pastures, his crop is better. And we can see that in the physical world, that whoever makes more effort on a piece of land, he or she is going to get better crop than the others. And even the human system, even under the capitalist system, people who know how to do it and then they put a lot of effort, they obviously benefit. What we have stated here is that those who sever the relationships of humanity, their end is ruin. These are the people who think that if that life is only this worldly life, there is nothing after this. Hence, they declare the benefits of this life as being their objective. And that is important. That the two viewpoints are different. People who think life will end with death, and the people who think that, who know that life will go beyond death. And those who follow the Quran, they will view the life differently and remain engrossed in this, and do not understand that if the future of man, the life of the hereafter, remains dark, then the prosperity of this life holds no status at all. Next one is resources and means of sustenance, that is rizq, are to be managed through human hands. A lot of these verses which have appeared in the Quran where Mayasha has appeared, this has been translated as if Allah does whatever he likes, and these give an impression as if Allah is a dictator and he's very whimsical, he makes decisions on a spur of a moment. And we, the students of the Quran, we know that is not the case. Everything follows laws. It is a misconception of those who think Allah provides rizq directly to human beings. This is a big mistake. A lot of people make that who haven't really studied the Quran properly. Hence, all the poverty and deprivation is meant to be like this. So they think that whatever is existing in the world, it is because Allah wishes it to be like that. I.e., Allah means this world to be like this. For example, by giving more to someone, he's testing them, and by giving less to others, he's also testing them. Human beings are a funny creation. We justify everything. We see a lot of injustice being done around us because we don't want to stand up against injustice. So we justify it and then keep quiet and say, oh, let's leave it to Allah. He will sort it out. This kind of thinking is mostly of those who are holding on to the excess, being the beneficiaries of the man-made system. And I've seen that it is normally those who are rich and powerful, they talk of those things. Those who are poor, they look towards others for solving their problems. And that is where the difference comes in. Many of them accuse Allah of being unjust, and some go to the extent of totally rejecting the existence of Allah. Of course, this is to their own loss. Particularly in the West, they say that if when somebody mentions about God or they mention about religion, they immediately say there is no God, because if there was God, there wouldn't have been any injustice in the world. And when we point out to them that this injustice is done by human beings, they turn their faces away and move away. With such a mentality, one can never ever come to the Quran, and for them, this life ends with death. Hence, no further development in the hereafter. When people talk like that, that means they don't need the Quran. So there's no point in wasting any more time with them. Wherever in the Quran, liman yasha'u appears or similar expressions, this means the law of Mashiyyat of Allah. So we need to understand what law is applicable at that point in time, and to which Quran is pointing our attention. We need to figure out in the light of the presenting evidence available from the human world and related to the Quranic explanations. If Allah is responsible for the distribution of risk directly, then why there are suggestions like, so we should look at the Quran, that when people make that kind of a translation, I don't know how they look at these verses where Quran says, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and according to their translation, they say spend from the risk which Allah has given them. Why is He asking them to give it away? يُقْرِضُ اللَّهُ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلِ الْعَفْوَ, that what is beyond your need, you should make it available to the system of deen. وَالَّذِينَ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ, that these are the people in whose wealth and possessions there is a known right for those who do not have this, who are treated unjustly in the society. So the whole Quran from beginning to end is inviting us to remove imbalances from the human world by establishing deen. Understanding the Quranic system of sustenance, that is rububiyyat, holds the key to our self-development. If we fail to come to grips with this fully, then essentially we have missed the opportunity of reaching that eminence and elevation in this life to which the Quran refers as وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Remember that in verse 177 of Surah Al-Baqarah, Quran says that this is what it means to have Iman. This is how you will get there. There is that level of human consciousness where we come to grips with the whole reality of our creation and its higher purpose in this life, in the life, and in the life of the hereafter. Now going over to verse 1327, وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَوْلَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْهِ آيَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِ قُلْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ أَنَابَ. So over here again, مَن يَشَاءُ has appeared as a term. Now let us return to the same objection which has been mentioned earlier. These people who have no Iman in the truth of this code of life say, why has this messenger not received any tangible sign or a miracle from his Rabb? So human beings want some kind of a miracle taking place. Not everyone, but some who are not very rational and are not using their intellect. Say to them that the law of Allah is that it has been left to the choice and intent of man whether to go on the right or the wrong path. Therefore, whoever wishes to tread on the wrong path, the law of Allah will allow him to tread on the wrong path. It will not forcibly turn him away from that path and bring him to the right path. So Quran says that it is not a question of presenting any miracles. The issue over here is that you have been provided with intellect, you have been given choice and intent, and you have emotions, desires, and now it is up to you, how do you use them? The world is created in a way so that you can make use of your rational side, reason it, and then develop your thinking. And you should understand the higher purpose of your life. So those who look for miracles are the ones who are not willing to use the rational side of their intellect. And whichever individual approaches the right path, the law of Allah will allow him to walk on the right path. This is the reason that the invitation to Allah is presented through reason and evidence, so that every individual accepts it with the full satisfaction of his heart. Very important, we should be fully satisfied with the path on which we are moving. Our heart and mind is accepting it. There is no kind of compulsion on him, neither physical nor psychological, because then we do not benefit from the Quran. And if we do not benefit, then ourselves will not develop on those correct lines where we can make changes in the world. Because then doubts and suspicions come into our mind, and doubts and suspicions are viruses and bacteria of our thinking. Demand for signs or miracles. Now I have put down some comments here. The Quran's addressee is the human intellect and its potential to accept through reasoning when it declared emphatically, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله. This is a verse from Surah Al-Baqarah 256. The Quran has declared emphatically that make a choice by thinking through it and under no compulsion, neither internal compulsion nor from outside. Don't think that it has to be done. No, you don't have to do it. Make a choice to come to this path when you're ready for it. It pointed to man that he needs to grow out of all kinds of false beliefs and recognize his true status as a human being possessing choice and intent. Because that is where the freedom lies. That is where the understanding of the freedom lies in the world. That is where we understand that no human being has the right to subjugate another human being and force him to make choices according to the man-made laws. Any kind of external coercion or compulsion and internal desire not guided by Wahi will never bring out the latent potentials kept in him, which are required to make him aware of his own best potentials to be manifested in the outer world. So this is the point for us, that when we are making Quran, we are trying to make it others to understand it, we should point to them that the potentials which they have, the latent abilities which they have, will not come out unless they come to the Quran. And this is an exciting part of our life. If this does not take place, then essentially he will create a world full of fear and huzn. And if those potentials do not come out through divine attributes and following the permanent values, then fear and huzn will always exist in the world. So those people who are thinking on these lines like us, then we have to understand it, that our best should come out by using the Quran. This means he will fail to get the best out of himself in this life, which he could have achieved under the guidance of the Quran. It's a great loss to his own self, and Quran says, وَمَنْ يَتَّخِذْ شَيْطَانَ وَلِيًّا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ خَسِرَ خُسْرَانًا مُبِينًا. And this is such a loss which is very evidently clear. And we who have come to this path, we can understand that what kind of a loss the others are suffering who haven't come to the Quran yet. Evident loss clearly visible by those who are on Rasool-15. Even now in the religious world, there is much written about miracles, and this never allows them to get the best out of their intellect, even for benefits of this life. And this is interesting. When we are constrained by these kind of thoughts, which are irrational and not based on reason, not based on evidence, that we do not even get best out of this life. And we have seen the difference in the West, where they have given up religion and they know there are no miracles, and the life, all what they do in their life is going to produce results. The West has moved away from this psyche of miracles and instead have performed miracles, in inverted commas, in the developed world by using science and its applications. And that is why they are able to discover all that what they have discovered. They have invented everything which we see around and which has added a lot of conveniences to our life. This search for miracles has ruined the collective life of Muslims, that even with the development of science, people think their namaz, fasting, hajj, and mere reciting of kalma will get them into Jannat and get them approval of Allah. This kind of a mentality, what it has done is that through religious rituals, they think a miracle will somehow take place in the hereafter. Here they can live their life the way they like, even a life of humiliation and subjugation and slavery. And we can see this is going on in the whole of Muslim world, that they are enslaved by those who are in position of power in the world. And they still think that somehow through miracles they will get a Jannah. The Quran declared emphatically that this is your word, and here every deed of yours is being accounted. So, وَلِتُجْزَ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. The Quran clearly stated, and this is based on evidence, that awarding without any deed will be injustice, that you will not get anything unless you do something. You physically do something. That is, your deeds, your actions, your tasks should be completed. Only then results will come out. And giving somebody without making an effort is, Quran has clearly said that it is injustice. Allah made it clear that "Emalu ma shaytum innahu bima ta'maluna basir." Very clearly said that this is your word. You do whatever you like, and Allah is watching all that you are doing and will make sure that whatever your deeds are according to the law of requital, you will get the results. Make your choices and get the results. It's that simple. Both paths of life, that is Haq and Batil, have been made evidently clear, and it is our choice to select whichever we want in the law of Mashiach. That is, Man Yasha of Allah will get us the results of that very path. Our life at any one point in time is defined by the sum total of our deliberate choices from the past life. Now going over to the next verse, which is 1328, importance of acquiring Iman through the involvement of intellect and heart leads to firm conviction. Very a short verse, but there is a whole universe, in my view, implied in this, and we need to go through it in some detail. الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. And in the religious domain, people take the emotive side of it and they think that by doing some kind of a tasbih, it gives them some contentment of heart. And I've tried to look at it in slightly more detail. Only this is the law of Allah, this is dhikr, due to which conviction of the heart and mind can be achieved. And without this kind of conviction, the question of Iman does not even arise. Iman is only theirs who accept the truth willingly with the full conviction of their heart and mind. Here again, let us listen to it again, please. True contentment of the heart can be achieved through the law of Allah, that is the dhikr, which has been noted above, i.e. that there should be no kind of coercion on the choice and intent of man, and he should acknowledge truth willingly. Because the moment we make our own choices and then we see those choices succeeding, just think how much confidence, how much trust it gives us, provides us in the laws of Allah. Now, complete Quran is dhikrullah. We need to keep reminding ourselves. I've included here a few verses. First one, we have gone through it previously as well. لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. So whole of the Quran is our zikr. So we can call it dhikrullah, but it is a zikr for us. Tell them that according to this program, we have sent this code of laws in which is concealed the secret of your own eminence and advancement. If you try to understand it by using your intellect and reasoning, then this reality will become evident to you that this code of laws is provided to bestow on you elevation and success. From this, there is no benefit to Allah. So that is the way we should view the Quran, that it is for me, it is for us, it is for Jamaat Momineen, it is for the system of deen, it is here to alleviate and remove khawf and huzn from the world. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِّرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ لَمْ يَخِرُّوا عَلَيْهَا سُمًّا وَعُمْيَانًا. Wonderful verse where Quran has pointed our attention to this fact that even in the Quran, once you are looking into it, even if you have got Iman, you should never ever accept anything unless your mind, your rational side of your mind and reasoning accepts it. And if you do not understand it, keep making effort till the things become clear on you. These people do not follow the flow of their emotions, but take every step after careful and deliberate choice. Even when the laws of Allah are presented before them, they never do this. That by ignoring knowledge and insight and intellect and reasoning, bow down before these by following their emotions. Wonderful, the Quran has made it very clear that we should never ever be subjected to any pressure to accept anything. Whatever is given in the Quran, it should be taken in that context as zikrukum, from beginning to end for us. And there is no contradiction in the Quran. If we find somewhere our intellect is not accepting it, we should keep coming back to it till things become clear. We should discuss with others and never ever accept it blindly. They do not accept these by becoming deaf and blind. They accept these after thinking through them. It is apparent that if these people do not act without thinking and reasoning about the laws of Allah, how can they act on other matters of life without using their intellect and reasoning? Because Quran helps us to develop our intellect and reasoning, and it removes all kinds of deafness and the blindness of which is related to our cognitive abilities. So that is, we should keep it in mind. Education and training through comprehending different facets of dhikr. Another verse is, Awa jibtum an ja'akum zikrum min rabbikum ala rajulin minkum liyunzirakum wa litattakum wa la'allakum turhamun. You are surprised about this, that Allah is passing His message through one such man who is one from among you and is like you. And this is something again very important, that all messengers of Allah brought Allah's message for us to follow. So over here, if we start thinking that they were superhuman, then that thing will go into our subconsciousness and we will never be able to give our best to the Quran. And this is important for us to understand. that all human beings are equal in the eyes of Allah, and this book, this revelation is for all of us for all times, so that He can warn you regarding the destructive consequences of the disobedience of this, and you can be protected from these destructions, and you obtain the means of nourishment that is rahmat for yourself. Next verse is وَمَا تَسْأَلُهُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. You do not ask any return from them for this. And we also, whoever have come to the Quran, all of us, we don't ask for any reward, whether it is monetary or any other, not even a thank you, because we want people to benefit the way we have benefited. And in that benefit, what we get is in turn, we are moving towards the system of deen. You are expending so much effort for their good without reward in return. This is surely a guidance and message for the whole of mankind for all times. So it is, the Quran is Dhikrul lil Alameen for all times and for the eminence of the whole of humanity. Innamal Momineen allazina iza zukirallahu wajilat qulubuhum wa iza tuliyat alayhim ayatuhu zadathum imanan wa ala rabbihim yatawakkalun. This is the attribute of Momineen, that when the collective concept of the laws of Allah appear before them, their hearts tremble at the thought of the destruction which accompanies disobedience to these. And when the details of these laws appear before them, then with the thought of joyful outcomes, their Iman is enhanced, and they have complete trust in the guidance of their Rabb, that it will never ever let them down. Over here, there are a couple of things which are important for us, because Quran has a cognitive side all the time, because it affects our cognition, our thinking, our emotions, our intellect, our desires. So once we come to it and we achieve a certain level of self-development, then of course it has very profound impact on us. And Quran says that with that your Iman will keep increasing. As Iman will increase, you will have ala rabbihim yatawakkalun, that you will have firm Iman in this fact that we will not be left alone, and the path we are following, it is bound to take us towards achieving our aim. Time is not an issue. The issue is primarily that we should keep doing solid deeds, and by working together, removing our differences and strengthening our hearts. One verse explains this in detail. Now, over here, I've quoted a verse which I thought has something very important in relation to contentment of hearts, Tatmainul Qulub. فَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا قَرْيَةً كَانَتْ آمِنَةً مُطْمَئِنَّةً يَأْتِيهَا رِزْقُهَا رَغَدًا مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ فَكَفَرَتْ بِأَنْعُمِ اللَّهِ فَأَذَاقَهَا اللَّهُ لِبَاسَ الْجُوعِ وَالْخَوْفِ بِمَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ. Why and when these kinds of destructions appear to nations, comprehended through an example, that why these happen and when these happen, we should look at this example. Quran has given this simile. There was a township which enjoyed peace from external dangers and contentment from internal strife. The means of sustenance was becoming attracted towards it from all directions. Its inhabitants were prosperous and with all their needs met, but they displayed ingratitude towards these name of Allah. The rich and powerful started hoarding and hiding these among them and displaying kufr. Next is the consequence of this was that the azab of hunger and fear became imposed on them like a garment, that is like covering the whole of body. So it went through the whole of this inhabitation, because they went against the laws of Allah. So all that peace disappeared. In place of prosperity, scarcity descended, and their peace turned into vulnerabilities. This all was brought about by their own hands. And that is important, that they did it to themselves. Nobody from outside did it to them. Allah does not stop His ni'mah, but they established a wrong system, and this was its outcome. This verse sums up the consequence of what is stated in 13:11, that is, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. And this is important when we are also passing on the message to others. We should try to tell them that this is how they should try to understand the Quran, that it is evidence-based, and what is happening around us is exactly what the Quran has warned us against. Peace and security is linked to the human psyche and its manifestations. Next is the beauty of the functioning of the law of requital is that it provides us with the conviction that nothing can escape its reach. For example, in today's world, we can easily see the trends of events in each nation and the overall direction of the world. This expands the horizon of our consciousness, which in turn helps us to stay motivated and continue our efforts on Rasool-15. At this point in time, as we have mentioned previously as well, that the law of requital is in an exponential state and the events are moving a bit on higher rate. So we should feel excited that the law is working. And as we are excited that law is working, we should also keep making our full efforts and put our foot on the throttle to the maximum so that we can learn as much of the Quran as possible and make it part of ourselves. Now, analysis of verse 1328, what is noted in the verse needs to be considered with the whole of the Quranic perspective in mind. It is not about acquiring some kind of emotive contentment which people refer to after performing religious rituals. It has nothing to do with religious rituals. This verse is precisely explaining what Dhikr means, and that is Zikrukum or Zikr. This is an evidence-based understanding and outcome supported by the criteria detailed in the Quran. The Quran laid down some basics about its guidance, which include freedom from fear and huzn, removal of differences, uniting of hearts, change in our psyche supported by the understanding of the permanent values, and manifestation of the divine attributes, clear comprehension of the terms of salat and zakat, we all know it, outline of the system of deen, including all those responsibilities which Allah has asked us to carry out in the world, complete understanding of the law of mukafat, that is the requital, including its functioning, and never to support batil in any way. And there's a lot more to it, and this is which I thought I should put it down just as a reminder. It also means that we have a self which meets the needs of the system of deen, and we can also explain to others all its facets in their finest details if possible. To draw their attention to the significance of being human and the need to free ourselves from the slavery of the man-made systems, being able to relate to other human beings is part of this understanding. We are able to acquire that vision of deen in which we can figure out the finer aspects of our own psyche, which is required to change the outer world around us. Through our free volition, we become aware of the injustices and inequities of the world and strongly wish to remain alive to the issue of human misery created deliberately by man-made systems. This feeling and state of the self will lead to some stress. It does create stress as well. There is no doubt in the present day world, we all feel stressed and concerned within us. But this is part and parcel of acquiring a higher consciousness in order to remain focused on this path. Unless we are concerned about something, unless we are aware of it, unless we have some kind of a deep down consciousness about it, we cannot get things done. If we relax about our commitment, we'll forget it. Contentment, inverted commas, here will come from two facts. First, recognizing the problems created by man-made systems, and second, knowing in detail the solution presented by the Quran, and which is Dhikr Allah, and having the collective Eimaan that this will be done through Allah's help. Now the next verse is 1329. The recipe of Eimaan and Saleh deeds is reiterated. Allazina amanu wa amilu salihati tuba lahum wa husnu ma. Those people who accept Eimaan in this way and then do such works according to the program defined by Allah, due to which the potentials of their self become awakened and the disorganized affairs of humanity become resolved. And this is called Tuba. And that is through Tuba that those get resolved. For them, there are all kinds of prosperities and a very balanced and beautiful abode of nourishment. Now over here, what I've done is, because this is an important word here, is Tuba, and the root is given here. And if we remember, one of the derivatives is tayyib, such a thing with which human senses feel pleasure as well as human self. This means every one of those things which is likable in seeing, listening, smell, and also in eating. And together with this, the human self also has a pleasant feeling. See how Quran has beautifully concluded in one word the result of the consequences of Amanu and Amilu Salihati, that you will be able to see, to acquire the finest feelings towards other human beings through Eimaan and Amal Saleh. That is how you will understand that what a beautiful creation human being is. And those feelings we can only learn by helping others, by coming closer to them. That is where the higher purpose of life comes before us. That is where once we acquire that kind of an outlook, we will never give up because we know Allah is on our side. And that is then it concludes Wahusnu Ma'ab. This is why the Quran declares the holistically pleasurable life for Momineen. And it says, Man amila salihan min zakarin wa unsa wa huwa mu'minun falnuhiyyannahu hayatan tayyibatan. So understanding these finest aspects of our potentials and our inner side, our cognitive, the finest side of our cognition is part of living this life. Otherwise, there is no difference with animals. They also eat, drink, and produce offspring, and then they die. A tayyib life as a consequence of Eimaan and Saleh deeds in line with the Quranic values. And finally, as a reminder of Allazina amanu wa tatmainnu qulubuhum bi dhikrullah addressed to Momineen, that is deen, to remind about the man-made world. I added this slide at the end just to add up some color. First is human conflicts through the eye of the history. Now, this is an interesting slide. If we look at it, it starts from 2500 BC. Now, this slide gives all conflicts which have taken place in the world from 2500 BC till 2016. And if we see it, that wherever there is a population, wherever human beings are abiding, there are conflicts. And their intensity, of course, is different, but these are there. Next is global military spending in 2018. If you remember, Malaika said this when Allah said that He is going to create Adam, and his place of abode will be this planet Earth. And America spends 36% of the total spending in the world. And all this is to create conflicts in the world. And with all this money, we can remove all the problems in the world. There should be no economic issue in the world. And why do they do it? Because they do not follow the guidance of the Quran. Even if we give them, they are not going to follow it. And this is what the state is. And these are the children exactly like us. Once we were children like them, and they are still there across the world in billions. And these are the child labor. And this is Walakad Karamna Bani Adama, Quran said, and these are the refugees who have been turned out of their homes. And that is why Quran says in 85th verse of Surah Baqarah that first you turn them out of their homes and then you go to them with charity, whereas you should have turned them out in the first place out of their homes. And this is very important for us. What is happening in Ukraine is exactly the manifestation of going against this particular value of the Quran. And over here, then again, وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَىٰ كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. Quran said that Allah has given us superiority over many of His creation, and this is what we are doing to each other. It's a disgrace. And then is the real reason the US wants regime change in Venezuela. And you can see what happens when Pharaoh becomes an absolute rub in the world, and this is what happens. And somebody has to stand up against this kind of hegemony. In man-made systems, one wrong system replaces another wrong system. All emphasis is on economic power through military means. The aspects of the human self do not come into it. And that is important. That is where our concentration should be, our focus should be as Quranic students. That unless we bring human self into it, we cannot solve human problems, because human problems are understood at the level of human self. And that self, which we know has the ability to go on to the life of the hereafter. Because if we do not have that kind of perception, then we cannot bring change in the world. The Quran as Dhikrullah needs our focused attention with total and complete connivance of our hearts and minds. Never be diverted by our individual achievements within the wrong system. So we should not divert ourselves that, okay, my life is okay, why should I make an effort? No, that is not about me or you. It is about the whole of mankind. When we come to the Quran, we become essentially the whole of mankind, because at that time, nobody is thinking of the mankind. And these few individuals who then grow, who multiply, then are the ones who are going to bring change to the world. Everything in the battle system should be strictly viewed through the Quranic lens. And with that, I come to the end of this presentation. Thanks for your time and joining us in sharing this presentation.